The president and trustees of the Seattle Art Museum request the pleasure of your company at the preview of Skagit Valley Artists, Thursday, February 28th, 1974, from 5:30 until 8 o'clock in the Seattle Art Museum Pavilion at the Seattle Center. Discover the beauty of the Skagit Valley as seen through the works of 16 Northwest artists who live and work there. Represented in this exhibition are 15 people that we will not tarnish by mentioning their names here, and Seattle Nazi artist Charles Krafft. We can confirm only through mutual acquaintances that he has died. It's not on his Wikipedia page yet, and there are no obituaries for him yet. So either he's dead, which we hope he is, or he's close to death, which would be good too, because he is a bastard. This is Doomed Planet, the podcast, Seattle True Crime. Episode 31, Seattle Nazi artist Charles Krafft. Charles Krafft started his art career as a broke-ass hippie in Fishtown. And in the 1970s, this was an artist community near the mouth of the Skagit River near LaConner, Washington. And I think you could rent a fisherman's shack and live there for $10 a month. And a lot of interesting artists came out of that movement. Again, we don't need to mention them, including Charles Krafft. And he gained a lot of street cred for being in this sort of regional art movement. It's all white guys, but yeah, what do you expect? It's the Pacific Northwest is like the whitest area of the United States. I don't want to go through Charlie Krafft's whole career here, or a deep dive into his Nazism, because it's well known and you can Google him. I really want to concentrate on the response to his death, or first the response to when he was outed as a white supremacist and Holocaust denier, and then the response to his recent death. I think he died within the last 24 hours. It's June 13th, 2020. I am qualified to speak about Charles Krafft. I went to the Custom Culture Art Show at Seattle's Coca Art Museum. That was co-curated by Adam Parfrey, who's kind of the fringe publisher guy. When Charles Krafft was outed by a story by Jen Graves in The Stranger as being basically a fucking Nazi, Adam Parfrey went out of his way to post a defense of Charles Krafft on his website, and one of the defenses was, oh, but Charlie has a black friend, or Charlie has a Hispanic friend. Just utter ridiculousness. So people tarnish their own careers by supporting this creep. And Adam Parfrey passed away sort of recently. One of the many things that Facebook has ruined has been the reputation of Seattle and now Tacoma-based graphic designer Art Chantry, a defender of Charles Krafft to the very end. Artwork involves, using a copying machine to distress old vintage clip art and typography, and so he got some traction for that. And but then he became a bitter crank, or maybe he was always a bitter crank. One thing about art is that he is boomer to the bone. He's a pop culture aficionado, and he has deep granular knowledge of any boomer culture starting from the late 50s through, I don't know, maybe the grunge era. And that's his whole existence, and it's the pop shit culture that he likes too. So I doubt he knows anything about history or art, anything at all that predates the boomer commercialization of schlock culture, the Von Dutch, card detailing, surfing, British invasion, go-go boots, you name it. He's boomer to the core. He always starts his posts by saying, cleaning off my desktop, and he's very an anti-computer person. He refused to use a computer for any graphic design. So fine, it doesn't make sense. What desktop? You're on a computer. You mean like the Apple concept of a desktop? And is that where you have thousands and thousands of these photos? And when you clean them, where do they go? Anyway, this is from Art Chantry. Just got the news today that my old friend, noted artist Charles Krafft, passed today after a long battle with the Big C. This guy turned me on to so many cool things and people that I can't ever attempt to repay him. For instance, he's the guy who hooked me up with his pal Von Dutch. Von Dutch was a psycho, but also deeply, deeply racist and a white nationalist. Charlie was a stubborn, pig-headed, adventurous madman with a lust for the peculiar and a great friend of the utterly friendless. I think that's why he liked me. When I heard he died today, all I could say was, damn. I'm going to deeply miss the existence of this man. Then you have 226 likes. Oh no, he deleted the comments. Oh, Art, you bastard. It's a good thing I've been taking screenshots of all your Charles Krafft promotion over the years. And I have screenshots of some of this. Here, if you write any comments here, I will erase them. Fair warning. A bitter, psychotic crank, Art Chantry. Okay, one of the comments here that I remember but that I didn't screenshot was of Marlo Harris. Just speculating, well, I think because his ceramic studio was in his basement, all the lead poisoning went to his brain, and that's her excuse for why this guy was a decades-long white nationalist Nazi psycho, which is well documented in several news articles, including in The Stranger and The New Yorker, and just from historic archives of right-wing, fascist, far-right message boards. So thanks, Marlo. Marlo fancies herself as one of this art scene people. She can be seen at all the local gallery openings. She holds some kind of Elvis impersonator contest, and that's supposed to make her really clever, as if that's a fucking original idea. It's sad. So much support from the community for Charles Krafft, public support, on Facebook that anyone can see. It's like, well, he was a Nazi, but, I'm in Seattle. I'm unsophisticated, and I don't really know any Jewish or black people, so I guess I don't get that. But yeah, whatever. It made me uncomfortable, the Holocaust denial, but, hey, Charlie, good old Charlie.
Gib du jetzt deine Stimme ab. Wenn ja, dann tritt für mich ein, so wie ich für dich eingetreten bin.
It's just amazing that this guy has died, and now people are praising him publicly. And he was a bad artist. The Fishtown stuff was bad. He can't draw. He came up with some clever ideas, like the putting ground up human bones into fine china. But his best work, or what I thought was his best work, were these busts he did of creepy people, Manson and Hitler and whatnot. But it turns out he hand painted those busts, but they were commissioned. They're beautiful likenesses of these, Nazis and right-wing characters. It turns out Charles commissioned a different artist to create those, and he just painted them. So the only stuff that I thought took any talent was not actually done by him. I'm going to keep my friends' names out of this because it's so sordid and this guy is so disgusting. But here's an email I dug up from October 26, 2011. I exchanged a whole bunch of email with Charles Krafft a few years ago till I got sick. He is an avid racist and pro-Nazi, white supremacy and all the rest. He thinks Hitler was a good guy. He doesn't just have far-right leanings, he is a true believer. I am not exaggerating a bit. All the horrible racist stuff he sent about MLK, for example, and stuff about how the Nazis didn't really exterminate people and how it was justifiable to wipe out whole villages during World War II if somebody there did the horrible crime of attacking a noble German officer. I think he should be outed. The guy is as far in those directions as anyone I've ever heard of. He should be outed because he fucking hides it to most people. Why does he make flower-painted porcelain hand grenades and guns? His art is stupid too. It's fucking bullshit. If I ever run into him again in a setting of our friends, I'll out him myself. This guy is really extreme, and when I told Blank about it, she said she knew all that. I cannot comprehend this. So I've been onto this fucker for a long time. In fact, this is a couple years before he was outed by the stranger in the story by Jen Graves. Charles Krafft is a white nationalist who believes the Holocaust is a deliberately exaggerated myth. February 13th, 2013. What will happen to one of the Northwest's preeminent artists, whose Nazi imagery has always been considered ironic, now that his views are not a secret? So he did fool the art world, and that, I guess you got to give him credit for that. Like, oh, what wonder, without going into too much detail, there were wonderful reviews by prominent art critics who gushed over his stuff. I know the CEO of Nike once had a Charles Krafft teapot in his office because I have a picture of that. People up until this date, February 13th, 2013, they're not believing me and some of the other people that have caught on to Krafft's Nazism. And so luckily we have this great, one of the greatest stories The Stranger has ever printed. It just embarrassed so many people. The least of which was Nazi ceramicist and bad artist Charles Krafft.
My name's Charles Krafft. I'm an artist, and what I do is make ceramic objects, and the objects relate to memorials for the deceased and to weaponry.
The subscriber you have dialed is not in service. If you feel you've received this message in error, please hang up and try your call again later.
Before we embarrass some people with screenshots taken over the years, I have one of Charles Krafft's business cards. This shows what a dick he is. It's a purple card with a purple flower, and it says, Seattle TGBMJFT, transgendered black Muslims for a Jew-free Tibet. Charlika X Shabazz Elijah Jefferson Krafft, Pride Warden, 3221 Beacon Avenue South, Seattle 98144. That was his longtime address until he moved to Tacoma to wither away and die. And his phone number was 860-5193. We tried it, and like Charles, it is no longer with us. Here's a random on Facebook. I'm gutted. Ceramicist and controversialist Charles Wing Krafft has passed from this earth. This man was a brilliant mind, a razor wit, an encyclopedic knowledge of history, a gracious host, and a friend. I last spoke to him before leaving for this new gig, unable to visit him because of Inslee's travel restrictions. Godspeed, Charlie. You remain an enigma. And, of course, right-wingers hate Jay Inslee, governor of Washington. He's also posting about the Seattle Autonomous Zone. Anti-Fastin has been rechristened Soy-Malia. So these guys are racist. They hate Jews and blacks. His his cover photo is the blood-stained words "fuck Antifa." And for those of you that don't know, anti is Latin for against, and fascism is the word for fascism. You know, Hitler and shit like that. Here's our chantry talking about Von Dutch, the artist that Charlie Krafft introduced him to. Or should I just call him Chuck, the artist that Chuck the Nazi? Getting in touch with Dutch was a special feat in itself. He feverishly protected his privacy. Charlie Krafft, my intermediary, checked with him first, and then I was told how to write him. You sent a letter to a certain biker bar in Southern California. You addressed it to Dr. J.L. Box, a.k.a. Joe Lunchbox. The bartender would see the letter, and even though Dutch might be sitting at the bar directly in front of him, he would go out to the parking lot and place it on the seat of Dutch's motorcycle under his infamous chrome Nazi helmet.
Meine Arbeit für richtig hältst, ob du glaubst, dass ich fleißig gewesen bin, dass ich gearbeitet habe, dass ich mich in diesen Jahren für dich eingesetzt habe.
Here in 2018, our chantry is saying, I recall in the early 90s, just prior to its closing down, I took Charles Krafft, the notorious curmudgeon/historian/artist, to have lunch at the Iron Horse, sort of a dive bar in Pioneer Square. Charlie was quite taken by the Iron Horse. He was amazed he had lived in Seattle so long and never seen it. It was truly a hidden treasure. So, you know, our chantry is good for these boomer historical tidbits and nostalgia. He put out a book recently, and I was pretty sure, oh my God, if he's embarrassed himself so much on Facebook in so many different ways, not just with the Charlie Krafft fiasco, that this book is going to be terrible, but it's actually a good book where he does not run off at the mouth, and his knowledge is conveyed in a sane manner. And he had a good editor for that. So there you go. Two personalities, the Facebook dick and then somewhat of a serious, somewhat respected artist. I'm talking about our chantry. Charles Krafft no longer has the respect of anyone.
I've always just been a little bit odd, you know, even when I was a kid, my interests were just a little bit different than average. And
okay, this is a good obituary, and I'm not going to name the person as someone who's done me a bunch of favors and worked for free for me and whatnot, and is a really cool, good person. So this is an actual good obituary for Charles Krafft. Save your vitriol and especially any finger pointing at me about his views. But my dear friend, whom I never could turn back around from the dark side, passed away today. Fuck. Charles Krafft, you old bastard. I tried so fucking hard to show you that you were wrong. But there's nothing at all wrong with turning it around and doing the right thing, but you just couldn't. I still miss you and have a lot of love for who you were, except hopefully the Nazi parts. Another fucked up day, I guess. Rest in peace. You were a unique, although stubborn man, but I have always respected you, your work, and all the late-night philosophical rantings. Damn. And again, very knowledgeable and well-read was Charles Krafft. Also very boorish, and he would go on and on about, well, the fascist party in Slovenia in the 1920s allied with this bullshit. Someone, when our chantry reported the death, says, oh, is this the Hitler teapot guy? And Art says, yes, a blip on a long career among so many other wonderful things. The stranger turned his Hitler teapot into an international humiliation for him. He also did Manson teapots and Crowley teapots and other famous bad guys as teapots. But the Hitler teapot made him a huge target for the PC police. No respect for the stranger. That is ridiculous. The article by Jen Graves in The Stranger is not about the fucking Hitler teapots or his art necessarily. It's about the views that Charles Krafft expressed over a long period of time, well-documented, far right-wing, Holocaust-denying, white nationalist, white supremacist views. But of course, you can't respect the stranger for that because they focused on the Hitler teapot, which is a lie, Art Chantry. Your reputation suffers today, Art. Someone else is posting, I'm not sure the PC police is what we are calling people who call out folks fascinated with Nazis these days. And she links to an article you should look up. I went undercover in Seattle's white nationalist group. That was from KUOW fairly recently. Charles Krafft had a Nazi picnic and get-together at his Beacon Hill mansion. Further on down on Art's infamous post that he deleted, Art says, we'd been out of touch in recent years. He just moved down here to Tacoma in the last few months, but the quarantine put the kibosh on getting together. And if you know the etymology of the word kibosh, that is fucking Yiddish. Art Chantry either doesn't know that or is insensitive to that, given Charlie Kraft's severe crazy anti-Semitic views, or he's just an idiot, or a little of both. I took screenshots of Charles Krafft. Let's leave Art Chantry alone, poor guy. I took screenshots of Charles Kraft's Facebook. Been doing that for years. Here's a meme. It's a pro wrestler jumping down onto what appears to be a injured black person lying in the street. So that's nice. Here we have Charles posting, Eric Hunt, the Julian Assange of Holocaust hubbub, was recently the victim of an accidental gassing in the apartment he rents somewhere in East Europe. In case you haven't remembered to never forget today, he's the young man who pulled Elie Wiesel out of a San Francisco hotel elevator to ask him to explain a few factual discrepancies in his books and got remanded to a psychiatric facility for a year and a half for elder abuse. So some anti-Semitic conspiracy crap there. He's posting that every day for years. Here Charles is saying, please go to Kickstarter and contribute to our movie about the traumatized pets of first, second, and third generation Holocaust survivors. And there's a split screen showing a Chihuahua on one end and an article that says new film to explore the historical burden shared by third generation Holocaust survivors in the other. And of course, he's got a million Nazi followers that are all cretinous creeps. That stuff is all out there in public on Facebook. Looking at some screenshots, I might have mistaken the sex of Marlo Harris or Joe David, Krafft, longtime Krafft supporters. So sorry about that. It's basically a married couple that are dicks and they go around thinking they're really cool, wearing like leopard print clothing and, you know, the aging, very much aging, shallow hipsters. You know, you're a new artist, you're new in town and you run into those people and the next day you're moving somewhere else. This is from 2014, long after Krafft was outed by the stranger. Marlo Harris is saying, dude's already raised nearly $20,000 on Kickstarter with his Calamity Ware blue Delft-style plates. I think he owes you at least $10,000 of that for his disaster ware homage. Know any good lawyers? Calamity Ware is a Charles Krafft ripoff, for real. They stole his idea, and hopefully they're not Nazis too. And then Charles Krafft comments on that. The willow pattern is the most popular transfer plate pattern ever designed. It's based on a story about a Chinese princess, but it was designed in Britain. The name, whatever, dick. Corresponding in public with a Nazi, and a local newspaper has already outed him as a Holocaust denier, but, well, in Seattle, we don't know any black or Jewish people, so really it's just business as usual. It's, you know, he's eccentric, you know, a Nazi. Oh, well. I always wanted to see some black people come and kick this guy's ass. And I hope Charles Krafft was aware of the revolution happening now. People are rising up and saying, enough the centuries of institutionalized racism and violence and brutality, enough is a fucking enough. But here in 2013, Charles Krafft posting on Facebook, apartheid was nothing more than British capital, Afrikaner votes, and black South African labor implemented by rich old white men in Pretoria and London. I'll tell you what it was. It was a system to ensure survival on a hostile continent. It was a system that tried to preserve the wealthiest and most advanced civilization in Africa. It was a system that tried to prevent a communist-orientated, fucking idiotic racist. So this goes on and on. Justification for apartheid in South Africa, you dick. You're dead now. Nelson Mandela sings about killing whites. Nelson Mandela sings with his communist comrades about killing white people. Really, Charles? Even from you? Really? Charles Krafft wrote a poem called The Timid Cabbage, and it was made into a book illustrated by Femke Hemstra, and there was a show at the Rock LaRue Gallery. I think that was right around the time that Charles was outed. I don't trust the dates on my screenshots, and I'm too lazy to look this one up because, you know what, Charles Krafft, this is going to be a shorter episode than normal because I'm getting sick of even thinking about you. And when I do post-production on this and then post it, we're done. You're deep sixed, and we can all move on. More from Charles's Facebook. I'm a Holocaust denier my own self, yet I think this video was staged. So there you go. He's saying it. The costumed doctor in the white smock checking his or her watch and the Zyklon B canisters all strike me as props. What crazy, sick, horrible, negative bullshit is that, you sick monster? Here we have, what would a 100-year-old man hounded from country to country by tenacious, prevaricating Al Goldsteins. So that Al Goldstein, the publisher of Screw magazine, that's some sort of anti-Semitic insult. Then Art Chantry comments publicly on this Nazis page on an anti-Semitic post. He says, well, because maybe it's fun. And Charles Krafft says, Art Chantry is Milton Glaser on Alka-Seltzer. And Art Chantry says, how dare you ever compare me to Milton Glaser? I may be a pompous, arrogant old fool, but I am not, nor will I ever be a, in all caps, New Yorker. So that's creepy. Some anti-Jewish sentiment there. But they say, oh, we're just being ironic. We're just being edgy, doing this anti-Semitic banter on our public Facebook pages.
More pecani sauce.
Let's use mine.
Well, that isn't paste pecani sauce.
What's the difference?
Paste is made from fresh vegetables and spices by folks in San Antonio who know what pecani sauce should taste like.
Well, this stuff's made in New York City. New York City!
Charles says they were filming Nazi death camps, in air quotes, in New Jersey and passing these stage scenes off as location footage in training films shown to U.S. soldiers. Lists a bunch of Jewish directors that worked on that sinister conspiracy. Here's our creep defending his Al Goldstein slur. I used tenacious, prevaricating Al Goldsteins to indicate a phenotype, not a stereotype, Adam. He's talking to sicko publisher, Feral House guy, Adam Parfrey. You know as well as I do that some of my best friends are Jews, and how much we love to get together to twirl chickens and watch homemade Briz movies. Kind of wrapping up this episode, people, and I apologize, but you have to hear this. I think the story is not that this guy was a Nazi or that he died, but that so many people either looked the other way or just continued their banter on Facebook with this guy. And if Adam Parfrey doesn't scare you away, they've got all kinds of other Nazis, overt Nazis, commenting on his posts. And then some Seattle artists pitching in. And, really? Art Chantry defending Charles Krafft. Nathan, I won't tolerate a political discussion about Charlie Krafft here. He has a right to his lame-ass opinions and beliefs, just as you and I have a right to your lame-ass opinions and beliefs. You basically cancel each other out to zero and put me in charge, so shut up or I'll remove you. Savvy? This goes for all you others out there with lame-ass opinions and beliefs about Charles Krafft, too. Shut the fuck up. His artwork is brilliant. So his artwork is not brilliant, and people have a right to call out a Nazi. Art Chantry over and over goes out of his way to defend Nazi Charles Krafft. I remember he started doing fake Delftware plates via mail order. I've known Charlie for something like 35 years. He's the one that introduced me personally to Von Dutch. Think what you may about him. I don't know why he says personally, because in another post recently, Art says that he never met Von Dutch. He just corresponded by mail. I think Charles Krafft, he's a great guy. Eccentric, yes, but I totally trust and regard this man in high order. There are certain things you can't say in a rich, liberal, silly, self-righteous, and smug city like Seattle. Charlie loves to say those things. Right, like the Holocaust was a work of fiction. Game over. Been there myself. Liberals can be full of hate, just as bad as the conservatives. Really? So that's the fucking good people on both sides argument? Really? I've seen hardcore peaceniks foam at the mouth like a rabid killer Doberman when you mention the word Hitler. And never ever trust the stranger. They stab people in the back like it's fun. Been there on that one too. You know, Art did a couple stranger covers. And that's the other thing about Art. He's not someone that's producing. He was prolific at one point. I haven't seen any new original stuff from him in like forever. And The Stranger has done more than any institution in Seattle almost to promote local visual artists. Weird. I got a million screenshots from right-wing message boards, but I'm sick of this bastard and all his stupid talk, so we'll move on. I don't know if this episode, the goal was to out other people that supported Charles Krafft. I do not think we succeeded, probably on purpose. I want to just hope everyone can move on from this, and maybe they'll learn from their mistakes about posting publicly to support Charles Krafft, the Nazi. We called out Marlo Harris and Joe David, the art fucks, and they deserve it. And also Art Chantry, who's, Facebook killed his reputation as far as I'm concerned, and he's not stopping. We also, Larry Reed was a longtime buddy and supporter of Charles Krafft. He's a legendary local hipster and art promoter guy. And I like Larry. He's a great guy. His son is the guy that skateboarded on the top of Seattle's Kingdome Stadium. But I'll wrap this up with something that I wrote about Charles Krafft in March of 2003. Larry Reed is not going away. Retro schlock, art impresario, and well-seasoned Seattle scenester Larry Reed's latest event at Seattle's Rock LaRue Gallery, the Push Project, labors to intellectualize skateboard art. Several local artists are showcased, including Larry's longtime collaborator Charles Krafft, who has spent nearly his entire career milking his one-idea disasterware concept, Nazi-themed porcelain Delftware. I once saw Krafft, and I spelled that with 3 Ks, at an art opening wearing a Nazi Wehrmacht SS pin, and this is true during the Custom Culture art show at Coco, which was next to the Lusty Lady at the time. My friend Adam Greenfield pointed out to Charles Krafft, isn't that a fucking Nazi Wehrmacht SS pin, and why would you wear that? Reed takes himself way too seriously, being that he is, in my legally protected opinion, not in fact an artist, but merely a groupie, an annoying and talentless errand boy working for alleged neo-proto-fascist postmodern grocery clerks. But hold on, at least he's not some SUV-driving warmonger, right? And he has a cool son. You're a good dad and not a corporate pig, Larry. So there you go. And that wraps up Doomed Planet, Seattle True Crime Podcast, episode 31. Seattle Nazi Charles Krafft is dead, gone, buried, 6 feet under. Still haven't received confirmation from the media or a Wikipedia page. But if he's not dead, we hope he dies very soon as a bad person and a cretinous Nazi creep. Goodbye.